Okay, we're going to look at how to find an inverse function and then how to sketch the function. Okay, let's start off here. You start off with f of x equals minus x squared, and you're asked to find the inverse function. Well, you don't have to think about the graph or anything like that. All you have to do to find an inverse is switch x and y. So you have f of x equals minus x squared is the same as y equals minus x squared. And then what you do is you switch x and y. X equals minus y squared. Well, that's called the inverse function. Now you multiply both. Now we want to make it in the form of y equals those. So we multiply both sides by -1. We get y squared equals minus x. Then we take the square root of both sides. The square root of y squared is y. But the square root of minus x is your answer for what the inverse is. Now, there are two answers here. There's the positive of the square root of minus x and the negative, plus and minus. But if we look back here, in order for the inverse to work, you have to restrict the domain. You see here, we started off and we're only looking at the parts where x is greater than or equal to 0. Well, first, this will make sense if we just sketch it. Y equals minus x squared. Well, it's a parabola, but it's an unhappy one. It's upside down. If you put 1 in here, you go 1 times 1, you get minus 1 out for an answer. If you put 2 in there, you go 2 times 2, and then you make it negative, you get minus 4 out. Now, on the other side, you have a minus 1 and 1, and a minus 2 and minus 4, a minus 1 and minus 1. So it would go bend down like this. But we're only taking the function where x is greater than or equal to 0. So it's this branch here that we sketch. That's the function that we're given. When you find the inverse, if you found the inverse of this, you'd end up with something that's not a function, because for every x, you'd have 2 y's. And so that's why we restrict the domain. Now we're thinking, okay, we want to sketch this inverse function. Well, there it is. It's y equals the square root of minus x. How do we sketch it? Well, the easiest way is just to switch 1 and minus 1. Make it minus 1 and 1. Instead of 2 and minus 4, make it minus 4 and 2. Now, there's a line called y equals x, and it's called your axis of symmetry for inverse functions. You know that it should act like a mirror. So if there's a branch down here, they both go through 0 and 0. There's a branch up here. There's your inverse. And what part do you want? This is the positive branch plus root minus x. We just want that positive one. That's the inverse of this branch. If we use this branch here, we'd have another one that would bend around like that. And when you graphed it, it would look like these two curly things going on top of each other. So you have to restrict the domain of the original function. Otherwise, the inverse won't be a function. That's the idea. And here we've sketched the original function and we've sketched the inverse. And for the people at Fisher that are writing a control test, this should really help you to do the inverse function thing. And there you go. That's it. That's how it works.